everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing a first impressions and review of the new Just Peachy Velvet Matte Eyeshadow Palette. This palette is part of the Too Faced Cosmetics Peaches and Cream collection, which just launched exclusively at Sephora. So what I'm going to do for you guys today is I'm going to talk a little bit about the palette, show you the packaging, what's inside, swatch all of the colors for you up close so you can see, and then I'm going to show you how I created this eye look right here using the shadows in this palette, and then I'll come back and give you my final thoughts and let you know what I think of it. As always guys, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you leave. As I'm filming this right now, I have 450 subscribers. Once I hit 500 subscribers, I will be doing a very awesome giveaway, and I can't wait to get that started, so please hit that subscribe button so that we can get that giveaway going. So if you want to see my first impressions and review of the Too Faced Just Peachy Velvet Matte Eyeshadow Palette, keep watching. Alright, so on the back of the box it says, Just Peachy Mattes is infused with refreshing peach and sweet fig cream in our exclusive modern comfort matte formula for intense color payoff that's beyond blendable. Create endless looks with 12 matte shades of warm peaches, buttery creams, and rich browns that smell and feel oh so good. So when you take the palette out of the box, it comes with this insert right here. Basically, this is just a how-to on 3 different looks that you can do with the palette. And this is what the palette itself looks like on the outside. It's shiny all the way around and it has 2 little peaches on the front right here, which is really cute. When you open it up, it is magnetic, so it's actually not like a clasp close, it's a magnetic palette that snaps shut like that. So you gotta be really careful with this, especially if you're somebody that has long nails, because you don't wanna dig into the product with your nails. So this is what the palette looks like on the inside. It has a very big mirror, which I love. And as you can see, it's all matte, beautiful, warm tone shades on the inside. When I first saw this palette, it was a couple of months ago when it was still in development, and I saw it on, I believe, the Instagram of Trend Mood. And if you're a big makeup lover and you love to know what new products are coming out and what the new upcoming sneak peeks are, Trend Mood is a very good Instagram account to follow. But I'm just warning you, since I started following Trend Mood on Instagram, I've probably spent about 20% more money on makeup, so she makes you want to buy everything. So you've been warned. But this palette is right up my alley. It's full of really nice, beautiful, rich, warm tones, and I was so in love when I first saw it. So when I saw that it was launching on August 30th, I had to pick it up. So as you can see, I've already done an eye look with this palette, but I actually haven't stuck my fingers into any of the shadows. I've only used brushes. So I'm gonna stick my fingers into the palette for the first time, swatch a couple for you, and let you know my first impressions. So I'm just gonna dip into the second row here with my fingers. So Peach Butter, Just Peachy, Peach Punch, and Just Right. So I just did sort of 2 swirls with my finger into the pan, and as you can see, these shadows are very pigmented. So I'm just gonna swatch them on the back of my hand really quick. Okay, so you can't even see the first one there, which is Peach Butter, but this is Just Peachy, Peach Punch, and Just Ripe. I really feel like these swatches don't do the palette justice. And I know there's been a lot of controversy about eyeshadow palettes on YouTube lately when it comes to brush swatches and finger swatches and that sort of thing. I just wanted to give you an idea of what the colors look like, but these swatches are kind of patchy, and this is not at all the experience I had when I put the shadows onto my eyes with brushes, which is how most eyeshadows are meant to be applied. So take the swatches with a grain of salt. I don't think that this is necessarily indicative of how the palette performs or how good the quality of the palette is, but those are just sort of the first impression, first swatches on the back of my hand. So there are 12 matte shades in this palette. I'm actually gonna go through and talk about each one of them individually and throw in some close-up swatches for you. So the first shade in the palette is Peach Meringue. It's a creamy white shadow that has sort of more of a yellow undertone. The next color is Peach Tea. This shade is just a really nice, soft, warm brown. The next shade is Peach Cobbler, and this is a warm brown with a reddish undertone. The next shade is Peach Tart, and this is a very rich, beautiful dark chocolate brown. The next shade in the palette is Peach Butter. This is a white shade with more of a pinky undertone. Next we have Just Peachy. This is a beautiful light peach color. Next we have Peach Punch, which is a very medium toned pinky peach. Then we have Just Ripe, which is a dark reddish brown color. On the last row, we have Peaches and Cream, which is a beautiful creamy crease color. Then we have Fresh Picked, which is a nice warm undertoned brown. Then we have Peach Sangria, which is a very vibrant purple shade. And finally, we have Chocolate Dipped, which is a deep, cool toned brown. And since I have it, I also wanted to show you a comparison with the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. I just wanted to put these palettes side by side for you so that you can see the difference in the shades between these palettes. First thing you notice right off the bat is the pan size. So you get a lot more per pan in the Just Peachy palette as opposed to the Sweet Peach palette. But this palette has 12 shades, this one has 18, this one is all mattes, and this one has some shimmers in it. So those are the two palettes side by side to each other so that you can see the difference in shades between the two of them. In my opinion, they are quite different, and so I am going to enjoy having both of them. I was also curious if there was going to be any shades duplicated from the Sweet Peach palette into the Just Peachy palette. Now there are two shades that have similar names. So there's one that's Peaches and Cream in the Just Peachy palette, and in the Too Faced palette it's Peaches Cream. So they're not exactly the same name, but looking at the two shadows side by side, they are not the same shadow at all. Peaches and Cream from this palette, it's I don't know, like you obviously can't see the top one, but I've swatched Peaches and Cream from the Sweet Peach palette up here. It's a very neutral skin tone matte shade, and Peaches and Cream from the Just Peachy palette is a deeper neutral peach shade. There's also a shade in here called Just Peachy, and there is one in the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette called Just Peachy. Looking at them, I don't think that they're the same, so I'm gonna swatch them. No, they're not the same. So this is Just Peachy from the Sweet Peach palette. It's a pink tone color, and this is Just Peachy from the Just Peachy palette, and it's more of a peach shade rather than a pink tone. So I do think that these two palettes are not duplicates of each other. You definitely get a way different look from this palette than you do from this one. There's a couple that are close, but there's none that are exactly the same. If you ask me which palette I thought was better and which one was more worth it, I would go with the Just Peachy mattes. I think that the colors are better. I think there's more blendability, there's more pigmentation, and every single color in this palette is usable. With this palette, there's a few that I would just never go into, like some dark army greens and a really, really deep purple that has purple sparkles in it. So while I do love the Sweet Peach palette, I do think that this Just Peachy palette is a little bit better. So let's talk about the smell. So the Sweet Peach palette does smell of peaches. It definitely smells like sweet peach. The Just Peachy matte palette does not have the same fragrance as the Sweet Peach palette. This is definitely more, I would say it's more elevated. So this is like peach perfume almost. It is not a strong scent, so when I have the palette open in front of my face and I'm doing my makeup, I can't smell it. So if you're somebody that's irritated by scents, I really don't think that this will bother you very much, because it's not until you stick your nose right into it that you can actually smell. But it does smell very good. It's like peachy floral. It's very good. I guess that's the sweet fig cream that they're talking about. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the tutorial so that you can see how this baby performs on the eyes. Alright guys, so let's get into the tutorial. I have my base done and my brows on, and I just prime my eyelids with a little bit of the Smashbox 24-hour Photo Finish Eye Primer. That's something that I would do all the time anyways. And now I'm going to get into these shadows and see how they look on the eyes. So the first color I'm going to go in with is Peach Butter. And I'm going to use this in the place of MAC Blanc Type. And I'm just going to throw that all over the lid. Ooh, it's a nice color. Okay, the first thing I want to say about this palette is it smells so good. Like instantly when I dug into the shadow, I could smell it. It smells so much like peaches. It's so good. I'm just going to sweep that all over the lid. Okay, so what I'll say about the shade Peach Butter is I think it would probably be better as a highlight shade and not as an all over the lid shade. I'm just not getting the opacity that I would like with this shade. I usually sweep a light neutral eyeshadow all over my lid so that I can cancel out any discoloration or any like veins or pigmentation that I might have on my eyes. And so I wore Peach Butter all over the lid, and I can still see some dark spots on my lid. So I don't think that this shade is good as a all over the lid shade. I think it would probably be better just as a highlight shade, as like a matte white highlight. Another thing I'll say is just having dipped into the very first shadow, there was a lot of kick up. Let's see if you can see that. Like you can see that there's tons of shadow all over around the pan. So these shadows are pretty powdery, and so you're gonna have to watch for fallout and just be careful blending them out. So the next color I'm gonna use for my crease is called Peaches and Cream. I'm gonna go in with a Morphe 441 brush, and I don't know if you can see this, but this palette is very, very powdery. I'm just lightly dipping my brush in, and there's lots of powder coming out. It smells so good though. It's so weird. As you can see, I dipped into that bottom corner shade there, and there's just tons of kick up around the pan. So just be very, very careful if you're gonna use this palette. So I'm gonna go in with Peaches and Cream into my crease. Okay, so I'm getting decent coloring there. It looks like a really nice crease shade. The pigmentation on this particular shade is really beautiful. I'm really liking the way that this is going on, and I love the way it's blending with the other shadow. And I do think that when it comes to eyeshadow, there is a bit of a trade-off. So if you want intense pigmentation, you're probably gonna have to deal with a little bit more fallout. If you want blendability, the powder's gonna have to be a little bit more thin, and it can't be so thick that it's not gonna fall down onto your eyes. So I know all the drama that was surrounding the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette. I didn't buy that palette just because the color scheme isn't something that I would wear on a regular basis, so it wasn't really worth the money for me. But I'm not particularly bothered by shadow that's really powdery and falls off the brush, because usually that's a sign of good pigment and good blendability. You kind of have to take the good with the bad. I mean, I don't have any eyeshadows that I think are 100% perfect in terms of blendability, pigmentation, no fallout, like, you know. Okay, so the next shade I'm gonna go in with is a little bit darker. It's Just Peachy. Just dipping my brush into this one. Same thing, there's not as much kick up as from Peaches and Cream, but still a little bit. This is a really pretty shade as well. So I'm just gonna put this into my crease, but just a little bit lower. Okay, so sort of on first swipe, I don't see a ton of difference between these two shades, but you can definitely tell that Just Peachy is just a little bit more pink. Peaches and Cream is a little bit more neutral. So I'm just gonna blend that out. I'm gonna try and use as many colors as I can from the palette so that you can get an idea of how they all work. So I don't know if you can tell the difference between my two eyes, but this one just looks a little bit more on the pink side. So after using two shades on my eye, I am very impressed with the blendability of this palette. These shades do blend together very, very nicely and seamlessly. I'm not seeing really any patchiness going on with my eyes. So next I'm gonna go in with a smaller precision brush, and I'm gonna go into Peach Punch. And this is a very, very pinkish peach color. So let's look at Peach Punch. Okay, not too bad. This is a very, very peachy color. I'm just gonna put that into the crease, sort of concentrating it on the outer corner, and then slowly sweeping it back towards the center of my lid. But I think I'm gonna leave the inner corner just with those original neutral colors on it. Okay, so that's really nice. I'm so impressed with the blendability of these shadows. So the third color, Peach Punch, also blended in with the other shadows really, really well. I'll just give you an idea of what my palette looks like. So this is the one I just used, Peach Punch, and as you can see, there's lots of dust up. All right, so the last shade I'm gonna go into on the upper lid is Peach Sangria. It's this really beautiful sort of purpley shade. Yeah. So that's now 5 shades that I've dipped into, and they've all been sort of really powdery like that. So I think it's fairly safe to say that this whole palette has a lot of kick up, so you just have to watch out for that. And I'm gonna concentrate this color. Ooh, that is really nice. I'm gonna concentrate this color just on the outer corner. These shadows are really pigmented, and a little goes a long way, so just watch out for that. Okay, so this last shade, this Peach Sangria, is actually darker than what I thought it would be, which is good because it's really, really pigmented. But I feel like it sort of took over some of the colors that I put down first. So I'm just gonna go in with a brush that doesn't have any product on it and see if I can blend away some of that purpley color. Okay, so looking at those top shadows, I'm very happy. I'm impressed with the pigmentation. I'm very happy with the colors. I think that these shadows really blend beautifully, and I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. So when I'm working exclusively with matte shadows and I don't have any shimmers, I usually don't go all over the lid with any matte color. What I'll do is I'll just build up all the matte shadows throughout my crease and just go for a gradient sort of ombre effect. but I'm noticing that I don't have the coverage on the inner corner from that peach butter shade that I laid down first. So I'm just gonna go back in with that one and see if I can deepen that up a little bit. All right, so moving to the lower lash line, I'm gonna go in with Chocolate Dipped, which is the darkest shade in the palette. And I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of Peach Tart. And I'm just gonna run that, wow, that's really pigmented. I'm just gonna run that on my lower lash line, kind of stopping about 2/3 of the way in. Okay, and then I'm just gonna mix Chocolate Dipped and Peach Tart and just run it very close to the upper lash line as well, just to kind of match that and add a little bit more depth. Now going with the Morphe E18, I'm gonna take Peach Punch, just a very little bit of it, and I'm going to blend out my lower lash line. Okay, so now for highlight, I'm gonna go in with the lightest shade in the palette, and that's Peach Meringue. And I'm just gonna put a little bit underneath my brow bone. You know, I really love the colors in this palette, but I have to say the two light shades, Peach Meringue and Peach Butter, I'm not a huge fan of. I think the pigmentation could be a lot better on these two, because I'm sort of running this into my brow bone and I'm not really seeing too much of a difference. Might be just me, but I really like a super duper bright inner corner. And, you know, with a matte shadow, you're not gonna get the same brightness as with a shimmer shadow. So yeah, so I'm not a huge fan of these highlight shades. They're just not getting any pigmentation. Like, I'm really going in with the brush into the actual shadow and kind of nothing's coming up here. So let me zoom you in so you can see the eye look. So very impressed with the blendability of these shadows. I don't really see too much patchiness. Pretty happy with the coloring. It looks really, really nice. As you can see, the inner corner shades though, just not as bright as what I would normally go for, so. All right, so I'm gonna go finish the rest of my makeup off of camera and I'll be right back. All right, so we're back. I didn't want to do too much to this look, so I just added some false lashes and a little bit of black liner in the waterline. I also added some highlighter and some lip gloss. This lip is actually the Too Faced Sweet Peach Creamy Peach Oil Lip Gloss in the shade Pure Peach. All right, so let's get into my final thoughts about the palette. Overall, I thought this palette performed really, really well. I was very happy with the blendability, very happy with the pigmentation. It was so easy to blend these shadows out, and I felt like all the colors that I used complemented each other really well. I will say that the two shadows that I was disappointed in were the highlighter shades. I felt like that they weren't very pigmented, and I like a really bright inner corner. And I think I'm just used to wearing like MAC Nylon, which is an incredible inner corner highlight shade. I didn't get as much brightness and pigmentation out of those two shades as I wanted to. The rest of the shades in the palette were so, so nice. I definitely approve of this palette. I think it's absolutely worth the money. It is so, so beautiful. And if you're a big fan of warm matte eyeshadows, you will love this palette and you should go pick it up. And that is it, guys, for my review and first impressions of the Too Faced Just Peachy Velvet Matte Eyeshadow Palette. If there's any eyeshadow palettes or any other products that you would like me to do a first impressions and review on, please leave me a comment down below and let me know. I'm always looking for great products from Sephora, and I love doing first impressions and reviews for you guys. And as always, if you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment down below on the kind of videos you want to see me do in the future. And if you didn't like this video, keep that shit to yourself. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.